And that will allow other people to join. Um,
Okay, great.
and Matt, I will address everybody shortly after 11, but then we probably won't. We'll give everybody like 2 more minutes to get logged in and whatnot, and we'll start.
Sounds good.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get logged in and settled. I know this will surprise you, but sometimes Zoom can be finicky and take a few moments to get cranked up. And then we will get started. So hang tight and we'll give you a shout just prior to getting going. few more moments. Matt, you about ready?
I'm absolutely ready.
Awesome. We're going to get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Jake. Good to see you again. This is the next in our quarterly webinar series that covers psychology-related marketing topics. And today we're discussing what is perhaps the most common issue that we see with clients. It's about the transition from a brand experience, customers seeing and liking your company or your product or service, and then their experiences online and kind of the breaks that occur within that. So we're calling it How Digital Broke Your Brand. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We are partnering with one of our sister agencies, Alloy.digital. Now, they're also a behavioral sciences agency, but they focus in on mostly behavioral economics and other related services to make sure that they get great customer experiences. We're going to discuss a lot related to this topic, but a couple of housekeeping issues before we start. We're going to have about 40-ish minutes worth of content with questions at the end. So as we go through, feel free to go up to the Q&A button and put your questions in. We'll be monitoring those as we go. We may pause the presentation and answer some pertinent questions, and if not, when we get to the end, we will cover them all then. Second, we are recording the session. So if you can't stay for the entire thing and you want to share this with your friends and colleagues, you will get an email within 48 hours with a recording of the session, as well as some notes and follow-up topics. So no worries about any of that. Now, with all that said, let's dive in with introductions. If you're attending today, you have likely seen me on a webinar before. My name is Jake McKenzie. I'm the president and CEO of the Intermark Group, the nation's largest psychology-driven marketing firm. With me today is Matt McKenzie, who is president of Alloy.digital. They are also a behavioral sciences firm specializing in applying that into the digital space, mostly applications and websites and overall digital experiences. And Matt is a long time vet of the marketing and digital marketing space, been working in software development now for 20 plus years. And if you can't tell from the resemblance, Matt is my brother. So there'll be some good natured ribbing along the way, I'm sure, back and forth, but we'll try to keep it as clean as we can, and we'll get into fisticuffs when we get off screen later. Good morning, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks everyone for attending today. I'm excited about this.
Awesome. Well, let's start with just the broad strokes of what the issues are. We're in a digital age. Everything is moving digitally. Just about everything you can imagine has a digital interaction, including ordering your food at a QSR restaurant. And that presents both unique challenges that companies are beginning to wrestle with. And so we're going to talk about a few of those challenges. The major challenge being where our expectations are being set and how difficult it is for all brands to meet those expectations. So let's start with number one. It's an evolving digital landscape. Likely you have already done tons of digital interactions this morning, whether it's adding something to your shopping cart, watching digital videos online, going to a website, doing some research, using ChatGPT to get information, etc. Now, these are all part of that overall brand experience, but they're not part of the traditional brand experience. They're kind of new things. And we're seeing companies really struggle with where and how to integrate these into what's going on. The second major problem is this rise of consumer expectations. Matt, I know you love to call it the Amazon effect. What we mean by this is probably pretty obvious to those of you on the call. Amazon and other high intent companies have set expectations with all of us, all of our consumer set, about what shopping online ought to be like. You go to Amazon and what's it like? Well, they greet you personally. They remind you about the things you were shopping for. They suggest things you could be shopping for. They leverage social proof and lead you down a decision tree path. And once you're ready to make a decision, it's one click and boom, it shows up at your house. Now, that's difficult to keep up with. Amazon has 20 years head start experience on most of us within that space. But it's not just Amazon that's setting the bar here. Just about every high affinity company that you can name has done a really great job of setting expectations. And one of those subsegments is this omni-channel experience. And what that means is every place that you can touch is fully integrated. Apple is obviously the easiest example. You go into an Apple store, they've got a great shopping experience. It's fully integrated with their online shopping experience. So you can do your online shopping experience and pick it up in stores, or you can schedule an appointment to talk with somebody in the store and they know you're coming and who you are and are ready when you get there. You can do it all mobily. You can do it via an app. You can do it via their website, and it's all fully integrated, including drop shipping to your house. Now, these sort of things are setting expectations for the rest of us. So when somebody comes to your website, they immediately expect it to be like Apple or Amazon or Chick-fil-A or somebody else who's done a really good job of integrating things. And so we want to highlight the most common areas where we see breakdowns because it drives business. In fact, there was a study from Deloitte and McKinsey and Company that showed mature digital companies, companies that are doing a good job with this, are 23% more profitable. Now, this isn't gross income. This isn't revenue. This is profit. That means they are doing a dramatically better job of converting their audiences and capturing sales, and high ROI sales at that. Probably didn't need to tell you that. You know the importance of this seamless experience. We're spending a fortune convincing people to do business with us, to come to our website, and we're seeing a breakdown at that point of occurrence. So, going to highlight 5 major areas that we see where digital breaks your brand. With that awesome brand experience that you're spending a lot of effort on, breaks down once it gets to the execution areas. The first is mismatched brand experience, the break between what happens online and offline. Digital overwhelm, how we expect people to shop once they get online. Number 3, a self-inflicted wound, where we've got KPIs for our internal teams that's leading to bad outcomes for customer experience. Number 4, having strategies that are not dynamic, that they are static, that we're not evolving as quickly as the digital environment is evolving. And then lastly, having a poor understanding about how shopping behavior actually occurs, something that Google coined a term called the messy middle. We're going to talk about that and the implications for it. So we're going to cover each of these, what the issue are, as well as how to address it. Matt, I will kick us off with the first one, but feel free to chime in as we go along. It is that mismatch brand image, kind of how you present yourself online differs from how you present yourself offline. And we see this far and away number one in terms of overall experience. And it's not just small companies. For instance, I want to play this spot from Progressive Insurance.
Chances are you know us.
Yoo-hoo! Progressive shoppers.
We laughed with you.
Sprinkles are for winners.
We surprised you. On occasion, we've probably even annoyed you. We've done this all with one thing in mind, to help protect the things you love. And if we can't offer you the best price, we'll help you find a better one.
Not always the lowest.
Even if it's not with us. That's how we've done it for the past 80 years. Not just today or this month, but always.
Now, Progressive is an awesome company. They do a lot of business, and they spend a small fortune annually online to make sure that that commercial is very familiar to you. But if you haven't been to the Progressive website lately, I want you to think about the brand elements you just saw in the ad and what you see once you go to their website. And I'm going to scroll through their website here on the right so that you can get an idea of what's on their website. And think about what's not there. Do you see flow? Do you see the other characters? Do you see the boxes or even some of the language that they use in the brand experience? So what's happening is you land on the website and your brain immediately goes, am I in the right spot? What's happening here? And this isn't exclusive to Progressive. They actually have a wonderful customer experience once you get to their website. And I imagine they convert a really high rate of customers that get there. But I suspect their bounce rate is abnormally high as people that don't have high affinity from their brand show up and go, am I in the right place? Is this right? Because there is that gap between expectations and what they see. Now, the flip side of this will show you how Geico is handling things.
Hello. Lucky for me, there's some great golf here in the Carolinas. Whether you golf or not, Geico could help you score some great savings on car insurance. Maybe even hundreds of dollars. Whoa. Oh, hole in one. And that's a par 5, mind you.
Geico. Switch today and see all the ways you could save.
Light flow, the Geico gecko is one of the most iconic images in all of advertising. I'm sure you immediately knew who it was and what it was as soon as you see the gecko. And Geico does a good job of integrating this into their website. Oops, skipped ahead. As soon as you land, the gecko greets you. So you know, hey, I'm in the right place. It's a small mental gap, but it is a gap nonetheless that artificially drives up landing page abandonment, people clicking the back button and going, I'm not sure this is the right place, because people's brains have short tolerance for asking them to think. And it's a good, simple execution of how things break.
Oh, hello.
But let's take that a step further. It's not just those issues, is it, Matt? There are other issues that lead to that immediate abandonment.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. And in fact, you have to think about your brand and what your brand means on an online experience. In particular, how quick your site is. This is a major brand, as you can see here, Goodyear, which has a decent website, but this website's really slow to load. In fact, it loads about 8.4 seconds, which is maybe a little slightly less than Jake's 40-yard dash time. But the average time that a site loads in today's world is actually 2.6 seconds, which is a huge difference in the speed in which this site loads. What impact does that have on your brand? Well, one is that they figured out through an Amazon study that even a 1-second delay has 11% increase in the amount of bounce rate that customers incur. In addition to that, 53% of consumers say that a slow website makes them less likely to recommend the brand to other people. And in fact, a Google study demonstrated that a 1-second delay in the page load time can actually lead to a 20% decrease in traffic and a 7% decrease in conversion. So surprisingly, you wouldn't think about something like a website having a big impact, but in fact, it has a huge impact in your brand authenticity online. But that's not all.
That's right. And part of that is because the brain correlates all experiences into your brand experience. So it conveys something about Goodyear if the site is slow to load. And imagine the cost of marketing funds when we talk about a 20% drop in overall website traffic. How much money did it take for us to get that 20% there, only to lose it because of something that does reflect on the brand?
Let's take another look at a website I think we're probably all familiar with, which is the United States Postal Service website.
Oh,
right. We've all used them. But this website is notoriously slow, number one, but it's, as we talked about the impact of that just a moment ago, but it's also really outdated. Once they launched this website about 3 years ago, they haven't updated one iota. Besides that, it's incredibly difficult to navigate. It's hard to find what you're looking for here. And comparatively, in this industry, they're way behind in terms of capabilities of the website. But more important, it lacks any kind of clarity and consistency. You can see there's a lot of information here. There's no clear path of what I need to do and what the activity that I'd like to be able to occur on the website. One thing to realize is that people come back to websites a lot. In fact, the average number of website visits that a consumer takes before they actually convert is about 5.5, way more than most brands, I think, ever realize. So it's important that your website is updated and changes very often. And in fact, like if your website never changes or updates, then it has a big impact on your capability to search higher, result in higher search rankings for things like SEO. And also another big important piece of websites is a clear call to action. We're going to talk about that today, is how do you encourage consumers to take that next step in your web experience? And unfortunately for the Postal Service, they've never updated their website. They spent a lot of money probably building the website, but was it even enough?
Is it a cheap shot to say that that's somewhat on brand for the Postal Service?
I believe in this case it probably is. Yeah. So one thing that I think is really,
and I want everybody to remember that number that Matt's got at the bottom of the screen. The average number of website visits before conversion is 5.5. That's a good lead into the messy middle that we're going to talk about in a little while.
That's right. So one thing about the Postal Service is it's not a small company. In fact, it is an $80 billion revenue company. So huge, huge company. And you can clearly see they're not spending any of that on their website. In fact, they actually spend about $1.2 billion a year just on leasing and maintaining a surplus real estate, which has no impact on their brand. You have to think about the different ways that our businesses spend money and how little sometimes we actually dedicate to that brand experience and what that really means to us as consumers or shoppers. Ultimately, it's about ROI. If you're not investing in updating and optimizing your website, then what do you expect from the return on your investment? Every company is a digital or technology company to some degree. 97% of shoppers begin every experience online. If you have a really bad online experience, clearly it's going to have huge implications for the future of your brand.
Closely related to this brand experience is failing to answer the question, why you? Now, if you've seen our prior webinars, you know the brain is looking for simple answers to complex questions. And the simplest is, why should I do business with you? That reinforcement point of converting from shopping into action. Purchase intent. And we see that this is super common because we have brand teams over here and we've got web teams over here, and that taking the answer to why you often fails to find its way online. I want to show you a recent example from AT&T, some beautiful advertising that's highly emotional and how it fails to make the leap into the online space.
Here's a thread, the power to connect. is the power to change. Connect two dots and change the whole plot. Connect one day and change a long week. Connect to one thought and change what you speak. Connecting these hearts, we change their flow, the plan, the path, the course, route, and road. Connect with uncertainty and change what we know. The plots that unfold,
the seeds that we grow.
Connect and change what you want. What do you want?
What do you want?
Kids look at kids. Find it and lose it again. Don't like the hue, change the color. Scared of the storms, change their thunder. Don't share the dream, dream another. Connect and change. The phase,
a place,
the dance, the towns, the now, your vow,
the news,
the views, the fight, the night, the light. Anything you like.
Connect.
Connect.
Connect. Connect and change. Connecting changes everything. AT&T.
So beautiful spot. AT&T spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year to make sure that you have seen spots like that, and perhaps that spot specifically. But when you get to their website, you'll notice a major disconnect from that. Now think about everything you just saw and heard. What do you see when you get to their website for the shopping experience? Well, they have added the word connected to the headline, but that's it. There's no talk about why you should do business there related to the brand. It becomes very retail oriented. Hey, we've got this product. Hey, we've got this offer. There's no brand thread there at all. Part of this has to do, as we'll talk about in a minute, because we got different teams working on different things. And the only thing that made the transition was the word connect. And even that, we're not using the same word here. It's a past tense word. There's no other brand experience here. There's no other answer to the question, why you? Which is the number one way we increase conversion, is your brand. Here's why people do business with us. And I use AT&T as an example. They're a great company doing a lot of things really well, because these are easy mistakes to make, but have a large effect on that overall conversion. Number two issue that we're seeing a lot of and getting asked a lot about is the digital overwhelm. We get customers to our website and they're not converting. Well, why is that? The answer, it goes back to the question that we talked about a minute ago. The brain is looking for simple answers to complex questions.
Yeah, I think it's a really good example of that. And by the way, it's your digital experience is not just your website. For many of you, it's probably going to be your application. In this case, the entire business is their application, which is MyFitnessPal. And one of the reasons why I chose this as an example, it's a really established brand. They've been around for about 10 plus years. In fact, they're one of the first fitness apps available in the marketplace, which is probably why they're there today. It's actually has a unique advantage over some of them in the fact it's integrated with other popular fitness apps and devices. But the problem with this app today is it's really difficult to use, particularly for beginners or new users. Because as a user, when you come into this app, you have no idea what to do next. It doesn't lead you through a process. It doesn't tell you anything about the app. It's kind of cluttered and confusing, and it becomes difficult to find the information you need. But most importantly, for anybody, even a user that's utilizing this app all the time, it does not provide clear paths to action. And we're going to talk about the reasons psychologically why that's so important. In addition to that, they're not using any kind of motivational tactics to encourage users to stick to their motivation, to their actual fitness goals, which clearly is what the app is all about. So here at Alloy Digital, we utilize Fogg's behavioral model, which is BJ Fogg. He's a Stanford professor, a really smart guy who was able to come up with a model to make it really simplistic about the way that we can take a look at digital and how to apply behavioral economics into digital experience to make them impactful. It's really based upon a simple premise that is, in order to get end users to take some kind of action, which is some sort of desired behavior, there's three main things that have to happen. One is you have to increase their ability, or said another way, increase their ease of use. Things have to be easy to do for people to take action. Logical, right? But beyond that, people as humans don't take action unless they're prompted to do so. Just because you may have an easy path, if you don't prompt someone at the right time to take action, they're simply, in most cases, never going to do it. And then lastly, you've got the ability to change people's motivation to take the action. So even if it's easy to do, people aren't going to take the action because maybe they don't want to take the action. So how do you change people's motivation? But we combine all of these three things together, then you're actually triggering people to then take the desired behavior that we're looking for. So going back to the MyFitness app, we're utilizing that as an example. How would we change people's abilities here to do things? Number one, you got to make it easy for people to take the action they want to take. If I'm a new user to the app, I need to know what's the first thing that I should do as a new user. Make it easy for me to understand that. for me to be able to take the action. In addition to that, you need to be able prompting me to take some sort of action. And you can see here in this app, there's a lot of important information maybe about your macros, whatever that is, I don't even know, as well as maybe some calculations about some things that I've done in the app. There's not a lot of information about what it is I need to do to take the next step, and how easy it may be to take that step. One of the things that I think they could do to make this app a lot better would be to trigger people to take exercise by doing something like sending them notifications about specific times that they may be exercising based upon past history of exercising, or maybe when I'm near a gym utilizing something like geolocation. And those kind of things will increase people's ability and the motivation to really take action with this application and make this a truly meaningful app. You take a look at the feedback that consumers are providing for this application, and I'm sure the brand's looking at that. If you're not, you should be looking at your reviews. But when you look at the reviews for this app, you can see that these are common complaints that people have about the app. And the only reason I think this app is still around today is because they were one of the first in the marketplace.
Yeah, and this happens not because of something nefarious, but because we as marketers are often too close to our products. And I give you an example of this. We assume that everybody already knows everything about our company because you're so familiar with it. If you ever wonder about this, go shop for something that you haven't shopped before. I love using boats as an example because most of us never shop for boats, or if you have, you've only done it once or twice in your entire life. And when you go to just about any boat shopping or any boat or manufacturer website, they immediately say, that's great. Which one of our products would you like to shop with, the MI5 or the MI9? And you're thinking, I have no idea. I've never shopped for a boat before. I've only done it once. They have a level of familiarity that they think your consumers do. And so we haven't dumbed it down. We haven't started with simple question of who is this for and how do you shop on our website? Something super simple. So anytime you are evaluating your own website, ask yourself the question, am I selling a boat here? Am I telling people how to shop us? Am I getting my brand premise across of like, here's how to shop and here's how to get things across?
And Jake, one of the things they do that is actually called that analysis paralysis, right? When you have too many options for someone to take, they're not going to take any action at all. The 3 websites you actually pulled up, what's interesting about them is that's some kind of fancy video header at the top, which I think is a brand's way of feeling like, oh, I'm making my brand feel fun and engaging, which is great. You got somebody interested. The next step is you drop them into experience to look at all of their products without any help on which product is right for you.
That's right. And shopping is a simple way to tell people what to do next, kind of what you were describing earlier. A very effective way to do this can be leveraging video on all of your digital experiences, both in your mobile apps and your website and any other place that you engage. And it's because video is the lingua franca. The amount of video consumed continues to go through the roof. We expect to get information that way. And it's great because we actually process video, our brain does, 60,000 times faster than written text. So if you're trying to choose between, do I do a short video, even if it's low quality versus writing out instructions online, choose the video or actually do both. I want to show you a great example of this from the folks over at PlayStation. Now, what they have done here is a short video that explains how to use our product. Probably the most common question that they are likely going to get. Now, you're thinking this is clearly intended for people who have already bought the product. Yes, but the amount of people who watch this prior to buying the product is almost 50%, which means that the video is communicating to people, this is going to be easy to do and anybody can do it. And we've got an easy video that conveys how to do it. They make this available on all of their platforms, on their social media, on YouTube, on the website, on the mobile app, as well as a scannable code for when you buy the product that you will get this as a pop-up so that you can see how to do this. Video is a very effective way. And of course, PlayStation's done a great job. This is a great video, high production quality. Doesn't have to be like this. It is effective just grabbing your cell phone and recording yourself talking about it. Having video beats not having video regardless of the quality level. So don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Issue number 3. And this is perhaps my favorite because it is an issue of our own making. The KPIs that we establish for our teams are leading to bad customer experience. And what I mean by this, the structure that we have put in place within our own marketing departments is creating issues. Now, let me give you some examples of this. Now, let's take our web team. Our web team in most companies that we work with is separate and sometimes parallel to the brand team. So you got folks in the brand team like, hey, make people like our company. Sometimes you got performance marketing folks and or sales marketing folks. Please get people to our website. And then you've got the web team. Let's get people to purchase something. And they all have different KPIs. And that leads to an issue of landing pages and landing pages that suck.
That's right. And unfortunately, there's a whole lot of examples of landing pages that suck. It didn't take me but, I don't know, 5 minutes to find these examples. The first one I looked at is I obviously, like a lot of people, use rideshare a lot, but I was just kind of curious for someone who doesn't. You're looking online, you're trying to figure out what rideshare service is best for you, and you might type something in like best rideshares to use. And I did that in this case, and I got a Lyft advertisement, which is 50% off your first 2 rides. Great, pretty good ad. But then as soon as I got to the landing page, my experience was completely disrupted. Now you're talking to me about airport travel made simple, right? If I was at an airport, you'd actually use geolocation to figure that out. And then in that case, this might be a highly relevant ad. But I wasn't at an airport. I was actually at my house. And so this ad made no sense to me. And clearly, when that's the situation, you're going to lose a lot of consumers because it's completely disconnected. You're talking to me about something that makes no sense to me based upon what I just searched about, which was best rideshare to ride. Another good example of that was something related to Sky Miles. I just wanted to kind of see what is the experience for me if I'm curious about Sky Miles and I wanted to sign up for it. There's a lot of information about Sky Miles. Maybe I'm not signed up for a Sky Miles program. So I typed in sign up for Sky Miles. And the landing page I received had nothing to do with the value proposition about Sky Miles. It didn't give me an easy way to sign up for Sky Miles. What it started talking to me about was a simpler, more rewarding way for the Sky Mile changes they recently made to take effect about me, and started talking about things like MDQs and other terms that have no conscious. Even somebody who flies commonly and is on Sky Miles, I didn't know what this stuff even meant. But even more importantly, there wasn't any information that was relevant to the things that I was searching for related to Sky Miles. You can kind of see that it was really a wasted experience for me. And if I'm an average consumer, I'm bailing out of this experience almost immediately.
That's right. Now, ask yourself as marketers, as you look at these landing pages, what was the KPI that they told the web team that was important? Well, for Lyft, they told them, well, let's capture phone numbers. Well, great. Is that really the KPI we're trying to drive? And with Delta, it was probably, we need to communicate these new changes to our Sky Miles program. Is that really the KPI we're trying to drive? The KPI begins to direct what we ask of our web teams as opposed to focusing on what the customer experience is. And that's where we see that break that leads us to pages that aren't great experiences. And this applies across all industries. Matt, you found this good one in shopping for exercise bikes.
Right, exactly. And you're kind of seeing some sort of trend here with me looking at different exercise things. So it probably says maybe a little bit about me, or maybe Jake, I was looking for you. We'll talk about that one later. But in any case, I was looking for the best exercise bike, right? So I did a simple search, which is probably a highly competitive keyword combination that everyone's looking for when they're looking for products in this space. Got a lot of ads, as you might imagine. One of them is the most popular exercise bike around, which is Peloton, but we've heard, you probably know that they're not doing that right now and they're trying to figure some things out, but they haven't figured everything out yet, because what they did was landing me on a homepage experience here that wasn't relevant to anything to do with best exercise bike. In fact, they started trying to sell me on renting a Peloton bike, which at this point, that's a transactional type of communication element, which kind of lets you know their KPI was probably something related to selling more bikes or selling more rental programs, but not based upon what I, as a consumer, was interested in experiencing in this case. So as you can imagine, that was a completely disconnected experience for me. And I would not ever engage in something that's so transactional when I just want to know what the best bike is. But they're not alone in the space. They got some competitors doing something very similar. NordicTrack was another competitor that you saw there presenting an SEM ad. Clicked on that one as well. The first thing I got was a pop-up with 25% off coupon to buy a NordicTrack. At this point, I don't even know that I want a NordicTrack. I don't even know what it costs. What relevancy does a 25% coupon or $25 dollar coupon have off on me? It's really none at all. It was almost like a wasted experience, and you've disrupted my experience because you actually generated a pop-up. So clearly a bad example, but there are some companies that are getting it right in the space. One of the other companies that I got an advertisement for, I clicked on, and guess what? It was highly relevant to what I was looking for, which was the best exercise bike on the market. And they had a video sitting there for me to watch to be able to understand why their product was better. Now I'm interested in Carol. I'd never heard of it before because they saw for what I need. Now am interested in looking at their products and looking at the pricing. And maybe at that point, I'm interested in a 25% off or $25 off coupon.
They're getting across why you. They explain how to shop. They've got a video on the page, and they've got the next step button up top, shop now. All the things we've already talked about. And I suspect you've never heard of Carol. This isn't something you have to be a large company to do. Anybody can do this.
Yeah, and I've been talking about those KPIs and got to pick on Peloton here again. But later on, if you scroll down on that same landing page, what you're going to see is two different products they show, which have no differentiation of the products other than the price. So as a consumer, I'm just trying to figure out my best exercise bike for me. But the call to actions here are to rent now, which don't make any sense to the relevancy of what got me there, nor am I even ready to buy this product yet because I don't understand the difference between these two products. The call to action is not prominent. It's kind of hidden down there. And this page also doesn't include any motivational tactics like I've talked about before with that butt-fog behavioral model, how critical having the right motivation would be to move forward. In this case, something like testimonials or maybe even social proof of reviews could be impactful to encourage me to see that other people thought Peloton was a great bike, or maybe a certain amount of people bought the Plus bike versus the other bike. And at that point, maybe I'm ready to click on. But if you're asking me to rent right now, I have no interest in clicking at all.
Yeah. And again, they assume that we're familiar with their products. If you're like me, you're leaning in, trying to use your eyes to see what the difference in the two products are. Honestly, I have no idea. I spent some time shopping on their website. I wasn't going to spend enough trying to research it if they're not going to tell me. And as a result, we bail and move along. And I'm sure my wife's disappointed because I probably need to be doing more exercise.
These problems there too is, I'm sorry, Jake, just one little key nugget insight there that I think is important is you're always going to get it right? We always got to know that as marketers about being agile and keeping everything up to date and trying new stuff. A/B testing, like always recommend that you enable yourself with A/B testing to try out something new and see what actually does convert.
That's right. Most of the problems that we see stem from something that you can control, and that's how you've literally structured your internal teams. This is what we typically see. We have different teams that are parallel that all have different KPIs. Hey, brand people, make sure people like us. Get them to the website. That's the digital people will pick it up there. They have different KPIs. The media team, the performance team, and all these teams have different KPIs. To make this effective, you need cross-functional teams with everybody has the same KPIs that they're working off of. When you have that, it forces that communication to make sure there is a seamless handoff. What we say in our advertising, is it a seamless transition into our website? Does the experience make sense when somebody get there to get to a final outcome? Purchasing something from us is often the final outcome, and making sure that the media folks are integrated with that as well. It's not just get them to the website, but get them to the right place on the website. And this isn't just these teams, it's social media. It's everybody that touches your marketing ought to be aligned and working off the same level of KPIs. The fourth issue that we see a lot of are static strategies. This one is probably more obvious to you, so we can go through it a little more quickly. The landscape of companies who failed to adapt, even though they had a dominant space in the market share, are renowned. I mean, you could probably rattle off and tell some of these stories yourself, but it's because they failed to evolve. Well, the rate of change is actually increasing, and that has major implications for us. The first is that we've got to focus on the technological stack that we are using. Matt, this is a great experience from some of your experience and how it is highly personalized depending on who's viewing.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about tech stacks here in a minute. But one of the things that any brand can do is engage in AI. And you hear about it all the time, but how do you actually implement AI in today's world and experiences that can actually make a big impact? And natural language processing is a great way to do that. It's a way, first of all, to understand consumers' intent. So if you're able to take information about first-party data, of course, information about what's happening from the consumer experience, then you can then process that information to correlate, positive types of outcomes, which allows you to do something like what Netflix has done here. They're clearly recording and keeping track of everything that I watch. You can see mine on the left and my mom's on the right. And this is just me going to search. I haven't typed anything at this point, and these are the top results that it's recommending to me. And what you see on the left-hand side is using machine learning to personalize these results for me. And you can actually see that, a lot of these things are things I've demonstrated some kind of interest in, or maybe have watched, or maybe related to something I watched. And they're even throwing in some things that I think I might be interested in, like One Piece. I had to even look up what that was. Clearly they think I'm a geek, which is probably right on the money, but they got it down here and they're utilizing that to really drive. Now, contrary to that, my mom has a completely different set of experience on Netflix, which is why she's getting a lot of different types of content. So you can use in today's world the machine learning to be able to do these kind of things. It's not that technologically challenging, and it's something certainly like a company like Allo Digital could help you with.
Mom does love some Clint Eastwood. There's some truth there.
That's right. Another way AI can propel your brand would be to leverage it for AI-assisted chatting. And why it's important is that in today's world, customers are 24/7. They're always searching, utilizing online, a lot of times utilizing when a business is not going to be up and running. You may not have chat agents available. And AI can actually do a great job of assisting with customers for around the clock, even when humans aren't going to be available. It does so because it answers quickly and accurately based upon the information that you've even given it to that point. And there's a lot of really good examples of that. What we can actually use is AI-related data that is capturing from the experience. So if I'm shopping for something, as an example, the AI can actually recommend products or services to a customer based upon my past history with your brand, what I've already buy from you, what I may have bought before. But it's smart enough to be able to discern very important questions about things that I may be interested in. Like as an example, if I've got something wrong with my vehicle, technically AI assisted chat could actually diagnose something very basic about my vehicle to encourage me to then connect to a dealership to go in and try to get service done with that particular dealership. They can utilize to do things like book appointments, make your payments, and even process orders. Beyond that, AI is obviously great for content. I'm going to show a quick video to demonstrate that. Start it for us.
Hi, Ryan. I'm Barry with Bill Penny Toyota, here to tell you about the all-new 2023 Toyota Camry. With nearly 4 decades on American streets under its belt, Camry continues to lead its segment with an incredible combination of technology, quality, and reliability, wrapped in an alluring coupe-inspired design. And Camry's 20 straight years as America's top-selling sedan haven't happened by chance. They've been earned through an uncompromising commitment to delivering the best driving experience possible. Let's find out more. 2023 Toyota Camry models are divided among L grades.
Everyone's got the point of that, but the cool things about this video like this is it was dynamically generated. I mean, there was no person that was actually involved in creating this video. Clearly, it was an AI voice. It's not exactly perfect, but it's completely personalized to the end user. But it was also personalized to the end retailer as well. So if you're a company that has a lot of retail locations, really good way to be able to then engage consumers with specific content available to that consumer that's relevant to them. In this case, maybe I shopped for this particular vehicle, and so they promoted a video that was customized to me about content for that vehicle. Interestingly enough, the content was actually pulled dynamically offline, or rather online, from the just content that was available online. So you can easily see how AI can really expand capabilities around some of your marketing efforts and provide more relevant, more interesting customer experiences.
The reason this is so important is because that messy middle that we're going to talk about in a minute, shopping isn't linear, and using mass personalization via AI can be a very effective way to increase that.
Yeah. Tech stacks, going back to that again, what's critically important. Major brand, one of the biggest retailers in the world, obviously, and even one of the biggest e-commerce retailers, launched a new website a couple of years ago. Needless to say, it was a mess. As you can see some of the headlines here, they literally called it a mess. The website was super slow. It made customers angry. It was a disaster. It was, quote, a step backwards. And this had to do with their technology stack choice. And in this case, the tech stack was too complex. It was not scalable. It was, and it can be sometimes insecure. We're going to talk about that in a moment. It sometimes is not highly integrated, and sometimes it can be too cheap, sometimes too expensive. And that's why you need to make sure that you're leveraging your technical resources or technical company to make the right tech stacks that's good for you. And the comparison I like to use is trying to run a marathon with flip-flops on. Like, sure, you can do it, but it's not going to be a very fun marathon. It's going to be really painful along the way. So a good general rule of thumb is allocate about 1 to 3% of your annual revenue to your website, which I know for many of you is a very big number. So for $1 million company, that's $10,000, on your website, which is a very small, basic website. But for larger companies, you can see that your investment into your web experience probably isn't enough given the impact and the ROI it can have for your business. In fact, what I'm seeing is some companies will spend more on their holiday party than they will on their website. Can you believe that, Jake?
Yeah, I totally agree. Even though your website is your number one location, it is your number one store, it is far and away your number one touch point, but we treat it as if it's this and something that needs to be doing. And it's because we're still living in a traditional world in some ways. And that means selecting the right platform to make this work. The one that I get asked about most frequently is WordPress. They've done a good job of getting into everybody's mind, but WordPress isn't for everybody, right?
That's right. Yeah, it has limited customization options out of the box. It's very difficult to scale. It's great for standing up a small little landing page or microsite or something like that if you need something quick and dirty, but it's commonly hacked. It is the number one platform to be hacked. It's highly insecure. You got to make sure it's constantly updated. It simply is not the best tech stack. If you take a look at a recent survey of software engineers and developers over with Stack Overflow, you're going to see PHP as one of the lowest interested, platforms. Even though it's highly demanded and requested by marketers, they're not engaged with their technical teams to make the smart technology-based decisions that enable and empower marketing teams.
Yeah. That gap between doing something quick and easy versus good. All right, last point we want to make is ignoring the messy middle. Now, this is a reflection of how customers actually shop. If you are a marketer, you have likely seen that purchase funnel before, right? Let's start at the top with awareness and get all the way down to purchasing something at the bottom of it. Well, what we now know is that the purchase funnel doesn't really work like that. It's a great construct for thinking about the different steps, but nobody goes through a linear process, or very few people go through a linear process. Rather, it kind of looks like this funnel cake where people move all around. In fact, Google did a study that showed that it is a highly nonlinear process. People will visit a website 5.5 times on average before they make a purchase. And what ends up happening is they start by saying, hey, tell me about what boats you sell. And then they may jump directly to a retailer site and go, well, what special offers do you have? Or let me take a look at it, look at inventory. And then they'll go look at a competitor site. Then they'll look at some review sites. And they'll come back and look at inventory again. And they'll go back up and compare a couple of brands within that. And it's a highly nonlinear process. The reason we say this is because our marketing doesn't reflect that. We don't communicate to people as if it's a nonlinear process. And one of the ways that we can do this is by personalized experiences. Now, remember that Amazon experience we talked about? This is where we see it. Amazon does a spectacular job of remembering where you are in that process and jamming you right back in so it's easy to pick back up and take things forward. What we're seeing here is an experience with Xfinity. So if you were to go to the Xfinity website, 100% of the time you go there, they're going to be like, hey, I've never seen you before. Let's start from scratch. Now, 5.5 times is the average number of visits people are going to come to your website. And what we are seeing here is they're going to treat you like a stranger every single time you show up.
Yeah, that's right. It's simply a high lack of personalization. And in fact, somebody actually asked a question I'd like to get to real quick was this, is 5.5 website visits before conversion to any website or the brand website? So that's basically 2 branding websites. We're specifically talking about consumers. In some spaces, that's going to be a lot higher. The higher the money the more money that you spend on a product, the higher the number of visits. In the automotive space, an example, it's a lot. But speaking of automotive, I kind of want to show some examples of personalization that's done right. This is a website that we launched earlier this year. It's Explore Toyota. And Alloy Digital built this website with a partnership with Southeast Toyota. And it was really important that we personalize the experience to make it highly relevant to all the number of times that people come back into the space, and they come back so many times. If you see, I'm going to show you a few examples of how you can actually engage personalization experience, even one that's non-authenticated. And what I mean by that is people don't have to log into the website to have that relevancy. And you can do that through things like geolocation or automatically identifying, the language for the relevancy. You can save the vehicles without needing to log in as your favorites. You can even look at similar vehicles to the vehicles that you actually looked at. You can do things like even save your dealership, all of which allow you to re-engage the experience that next time that you come back to the website and make it personalized, even without the need to be able to log in.
And we have this experience in lots of places. Personalized experiences occur, for instance, with shoes. The Nike website, Matt, I know you're a big shoe guy. Every time you go, they personalize it and increasing the likelihood that you're going to come back. In fact, you point out that Nike Plus members spend twice as much as non-members. Personalization works.
That's exactly right. And Nike does a great job of there, just knowing my shoe size, knowing that I'm looking for shoes for my kid, making me part of a membership program that makes me feel unique and special. And that's why they absolutely just crush it in space.
Which leads us to this concept of retargeting. Now, likely you were doing retargeting. If not, you need to be. It is one of the most highly effective places you can have a marketing spend. However, most retargeting treats everybody exactly the same. They're not using information about their shopping experience to adjust the retargeting. They're just simply saying, hey, please come back. Don't forget about us. But great retargeting reflects that messy middle and communicates what is happening to that individual user. So they're adapting to the creative to make sure that they reflect where they are. Hey, this is the product you were looking at. Hey, this is where you are in the shopping process. You've got something in your shopping cart. And they are nudging them using that behavioral model that Matt talked about to make sure they're providing that motivation to move things along. Now, a great campaign
Jake,
that I'm a
just
fan
one
of.
question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there was one question that's highly relevant to what you're talking about. I thought,
Please.
Someone had asked. I wanted to share that with you, see if you can answer it for them. The question is, where in the media hierarchy would you put CTV / long form FVP?
It actually occurs at several different places in the product. So connected TV typically occurs at the top of the funnel. It is that awareness, consideration, and the why you. So it is the first point of contact where somebody is often going to be encountering your brand, explaining why you should do business with us. So it ought to establish the communications hierarchy for everything else. Now, not everybody can afford TV, but you still need that thread across everywhere else. And a good piece of that shows where that thread, that brand thread, can continue down into nurture campaigns. And these are a type of ongoing communications, remarketing to somebody that's been to the website. And you'll notice Casper makes pillows and awesome pillows. I'm a fan, got some at my house, about how they customize that communication depending where you are in the process. They continue brand threads of why you would do business with us. They continue topical threads such as, hey, daylight savings is coming up. Here's some tips to get better sleep, which is on brand for them of, hey, we're going to get you better sleep. Sometimes they reflect where you are in the purchase process, or this is what you were shopping for. But they're taking what you have actually done and adjusting their nurture campaigns in other places to reflect that. So the emails you get, the texts you get, the ads that you get on social media later on are all customized to you as an individual. It's an outstanding job of customizing that experience for repurchase down the line. But it's not just online experience. Every interaction you have as a brand ought to be on brand. We see this in lots of different areas. From Nike, they put together running clubs. Those groups that get together are branded experiences. They convey the point of view of Nike of just do it and make it manifest. And they haven't shared it with me, but I imagine if they did, we would see that folks that remember the Nike Running Club are some of the highest ROI customers they have. Sephora's got a beauty insider program that is completely offline or partially offline program. And Starbucks has several different in-store experiences that convey a part of their brand, that conveys part of the digital experience, but it transitions into an offline experience. So your nurture campaigns ought to be holistic. And this goes back to having everybody working off the same level of KPIs that brings you to better outcomes. And that leads us to the last piece of this, and that's where social media is often its own team, often has its own KPIs, and often is off-brand. I don't want to beat up on anybody too terribly much, but you can see most social media or a lot of social media misses the strategic KPIs that ought to be driven throughout the team. They talk about, hey, what's your favorite hot dog? Or in this case, it's very retail focused. Here's some special offers or things that we're trying to drive very low funnel activities. Even though social media is an awareness and retention medium, it's not being reflected in that space. And it's because the KPIs being driven from the digital team are driving performance issues in the social space. And when you've got that disconnect, it doesn't resonate. The flip side of that is North Face. They're an example of social media done really well. They even had a campaign about, hey, this is a reason why you shouldn't buy this jacket. And that is very on brand for them, about reducing waste and taking advantage of your overall spend. All of their imagery, all of their content is on brand and reflective of who they are, getting to the point about why you, which is the thread that ought to tie everything together. So don't leave your social media teams out doing their own things. It's got to be part of this overall experience. And when you do it well, You are creating a platform that will dramatically increase your conversion rate once we get people to the overall site. All right, as a quick recap, we call these the fatal five. These are the 5 most common areas where we have that disconnect between brand and online experience. It's mismatched brand image. Your brand doesn't look like your website. Second is digital overwhelm. We aren't making it easy on customers to shop. Number 3, we have structured our teams with different KPIs, so encouraging them to have bad behavior so that they meet their KPIs instead of having all teams working off one set of KPIs. Number 4, static strategies aren't evolving with current technologies. I know all of you have had conversations about AI, but how many folks have already made moves to integrate it into what they're doing, including that search bar and the chat bots? Remember, that search bar is likely one of your top 3 links ever clicked on your website. And if you're not integrating it there, you're already behind the curve. And then lastly, structuring all communications to reflect this messy middle, how people shop, personalizing the shopping experience and making sure that we're helping people move down this path, even though we know it's not a nonlinear process. If we do that, every time they come back to our website, we're dramatically increasing the likelihood that they ultimately convert. Now, we have covered a crazy amount of territory in a short amount of time. We're going to make sure we've got some time for questions. But before we go, I want to leave you with email addresses as well as social media content. You can follow us at any social media platform with these handles. And if you have questions you don't want to discuss today, or you want to do a little bit deeper dive, send us an email. We're happy to dive in and answer some of those questions. We've got time for 1 or 2 questions. Matt, have you been monitoring the Q&A list?
I do. So we obviously had a couple questions earlier, but I don't see any coming in right now. Let's take a moment here to give people an opportunity to ask additional question.
Well, the number one question I get is where do we start? And that ought to be a planning strategic session that involves the entire marketing team. Often these sessions occur just with part of the team. The brand folks don't get a voice in what's happening on the website. And so if you can begin there, a lot of this begins to take shape. Once everybody's got the same KPIs, it begins to drive a lot of these outcomes and decisions. And so strategic session with the entire team. And if you need some structure to that, we can help provide that structure to make sure we're forcing those cross collaboration communications. Because as you noted, just about everything we talked about has its roots in that level of communication and making sure you're taking all of your smart people, because you're recruited well, and getting them on task.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We are bumping up against time. Thanks everybody for your time today. Send us questions. Little housekeeping. We will have links and to a recording of this as well as some notes out within 48 hours. So look for that in your email. Thank you for your time today, Matt. This has been so much fun. I can't wait to tell Mom that you were sharing her viewing habits with the internet. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. And we will see you next quarter at the next webinar. Until then, thanks everybody.
Yep, thanks everyone.